At Thanksgiving, my mother-in-law gave me a pink cartoon plate and said, "Since you can't give my son kids, you might as well eat like one." Everyone laughed. Everyone except me. I didn't flinch. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the cranberry sauce across the table, even though the urge ran hot through my arms like a tremor about to erupt. I just smiled, wiped my hands on the napkin folded perfectly on my lap, reached for my purse, and stood up with the kind of grace that can only come from being broken too many times to break now. "Actually, Linda," I said, voice calm as still water, "I have something to show everyone about why your son doesn't have kids yet." Silence. Not the awkward kind. The stunned, breath-holding, something's about to go down kind. The kind of silence that slams against your chest like a fist. Even the turkey seemed to stop sizzling. I pulled the envelope from my purse, white, thick, a little worn from the dozens of times I'd opened and reread it in private. It wasn't elegant, but it was truth. Inside was the very thing Jonathan thought I had burned along with the Christmas tree last year when he begged me to let go of the past. He should have known better. I'm not the type to forgive, much less forget. I tossed the envelope onto the table, right between the mashed potatoes and the sweet potato casserole, and said clearly enough for even the hard of hearing to understand, "This is Jonathan's fertility report, from a clinic in Warsaw, Poland. Dated 2009, it says very plainly that he is sterile. As in can't have children ever." Linda's face went ghost white. Jonathan's fork clattered onto his plate. His brother Ethan muttered "shit" under his breath, his eyes darting between us like we were about to explode. My sister-in-law coughed awkwardly, and someone's kid started crying in the other room. Poetic. But let's rewind, shall we? My name is Catherine Miller. I live in a crisp, colonial-style home in Lexington, Kentucky, painted the soft blue of a summer sky, wraparound porch, white columns, hydrangeas blooming out front every spring. If you drove past it, you'd think a picture-perfect family lived inside. You'd be wrong. One married Jonathan 5 years ago. We met at a tech conference in Nashville, where he gave a talk about logistics software and I was consulting on organizational psychology. He was charming in that overly polished kind of way, straight teeth, tucked shirts, compliments that felt scripted but still made you smile. He told me he wanted a big family. 4 kids, maybe 5. I believed him. So I sold my apartment in Baltimore, packed up my life, and moved to Kentucky to build something with him. We talked about nurseries. I stopped drinking wine. We picked out names for girls and boys and undecided. But after 3 years of trying, nothing happened. Test after test, month after month, I blamed myself. He let me. We spent over $24,000 on fertility treatments. Another $11,000 flying back and forth to specialists in Chicago. He always looked supportive, hand on my back, smile for the receptionist, grief in his voice when the tests came back negative. But behind closed doors, he withdrew. Sex became routine, duty. He made me feel like I was a burden. Until one day, my friend Clara, a nurse at Baptist Health, told me to get him tested again, properly. She didn't say more than that, just gave me a look that said, "There's something off here." So I did. I insisted. He resisted. Eventually he caved. But then he refused to give me the results. Said he lost the paperwork. Told me the lab made a mistake and we should try again next month. That was his mistake. I dug deeper. After a week of pure obsession, I found it buried in an old file in the shared cloud account he thought I didn't use. A PDF scanned from a clinic in Warsaw, Poland, from when he studied abroad in college. The language was clinical and direct. Non-reversible infertility, genetic, he'd known since he was 21. He knew. He lied, not just to me but to everyone. He let me spend years blaming myself, undergoing hormone treatments that wrecked my body, crying alone in the bathroom with another negative pregnancy test. And every time I said, "Maybe it's me," he nodded like he agreed. Now you understand why I didn't scream at the dinner table. I was saving my voice for something better. Back to Thanksgiving. Linda didn't say a word. Her hand trembled as she picked up the envelope. She didn't even open it. Some part of her knew I wasn't bluffing. That alone was satisfying. Jonathan was shaking, not out of shame, but out of rage. Rage that I had taken control. Rage that I had outplayed him. He stood up, jaw clenched. "Put that away," he growled under his breath. "No," I said louder now. "I think your family deserves to know who they're protecting every time they turn their insults on me." "You're blowing this out of proportion," he snapped. "Oh, so you lying to your wife and letting her believe she was broken while you protected your manhood is proportionate?" His brother Ethan looked ready to bolt. Melissa, Jonathan's cousin, gave me a slow, subtle nod. Then I added the last part. The one I'd saved for the finishing blow. "And for the record, Linda, I had myself tested in Cincinnati 2 months ago. Clean, fertile, fully capable of having children. Just not with your son." Linda opened her mouth, but no sound came out. I grabbed my coat from the chair behind me, buttoned it up with deliberate calm, and turned to face the stunned family gathered around that grotesquely perfect table. "I came here out of respect," I said, "but respect goes both ways. And from now on, so do consequences." With that, I walked out. Head high, no tears, just fire. And that fire? It wasn't going out. That night, I sat alone in my car, engine idling, parked in front of our pale blue Colonial, and I made a decision. I was done being the polite one. I was done protecting anyone but myself. Revenge wasn't just on the menu now, it was the main course. After Thanksgiving, everything in the house shifted. Not physically, our overpriced Pottery Barn furniture still sat where it always had. The walls still smelled faintly of vanilla and denial. The polished hardwood floors still creaked near the upstairs hallway. But emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, everything had changed. Jonathan didn't speak to me for 2 days. When he did, it was to ask if I could pass him the remote.
He didn't even look me in the eye. No apology, no explanation.
Just casual dismissal, like I hadn't just leveled his entire reputation in front of his family. Like I hadn't dragged his dirty little Warsaw secret into the daylight like a corpse from the basement. But that's the thing about men like Jonathan, they don't believe they'll ever have to pay for their lies. Not really. They build their lives like castles, all angles and mirrors, polished on the outside and hollow within. They expect women like me to keep pretending everything's fine just so no one's uncomfortable. Not anymore. I started keeping a list, not a metaphorical one, a real one. Ink on paper, in a small red leather-bound notebook I used to use for wedding planning. The irony wasn't lost on me. Every time I opened it, I felt a quiet, satisfying rage burn in my chest.
The list.
1. Linda, humiliate her the way she's humiliated me for 5 years. Not just passive-aggressive jabs at the dinner table. I wanted her status in her country club circle bruised and bleeding. 2. Jonathan, expose not just the truth about his infertility, but the affair I was almost certain he was hiding. 3. Ethan, get him talking. Jonathan's brother always drank too much and said too much. He'd slip up if I nudged him right. 4. The bank account, quietly separate mine from his. No drama. No warning. Just vanish. 5. The house, 70% of the down payment came from my inheritance. If he thought he'd take it, he'd learn the hard way. 6. The blonde, find her. The one who texted him, "You free tonight," back in July while he was at a conference. I never forgot that. I screenshot it before he deleted it. I wasn't making this list for fun. I was building a war strategy. And this time, I wouldn't be fighting fair. The next morning, I drove to Atlanta and met Alicia Vasquez at a coffee shop that charged $9 for a latte. I didn't mind. Alicia was the kind of woman who had never once in her career lost a divorce case. Power heels, matte red lipstick, and a laugh that could cut through steel. We used to intern together at a firm in DCB, before I left law to become a consultant, and before she discovered her passion was destroying emotionally manipulative husbands. "Catherine," she said, setting her cup down without a saucer, "if you want to ruin this man, I'll draw the map and hand you the torch." I didn't flinch. "I don't just want revenge," I said. "I want legacy revenge. The kind people whisper about at reunions. The kind that makes him afraid to date again without Googling who his next girlfriend's friends are." Alicia grinned. "Then we'll start with the finances. Do you still share accounts?" "Not for long." I returned to Lexington and drove straight to Nadia's home office in Louisville. Nadia used to work for a federal contractor in cybersecurity before she got bored and opened a private digital forensic firm that catered to high-stakes divorces and corporate spies. She greeted me in yoga pants, a NASA hoodie, and an attitude that made me feel instantly safe. I handed her Jonathan's laptop. He still used the same password from college, GoCats22. "Let's see what kind of idiot I'm dealing with," she said, cracking her knuckles. Within an hour, she found everything. A folder of saved messages between Jonathan and a woman named Brooke, who lived in Asheville, North Carolina. Explicit photos, plans to start over. Mentions of me as the obstacle. There were also wire transfers. Over $13,000 sent to an account listed under BM Ventures. No registered business license. No tax ID, just initials and a bank. Probably Brooks. And then search history. Searches like, "Can you get out of a prenup in Kentucky? Prenup reversal based on emotional abuse. Signs wife is recording conversations. Moving money without spouse knowing legal." It was all there. The entire blueprint of betrayal. I wasn't even surprised anymore, just sharp. Focused. If the truth is a knife, I intended to carve my initials into his future with it. That night, I sat in my office, our shared office, though I was clearly the only one who ever used it, and drafted the beginning of a new plan. I called Linda. "Hi, Linda," I said, chipper like sunshine. "Hope you're recovering from Thanksgiving. I've decided I want to host Christmas this year." A beat of silence. "Oh?" she said, suspicious. "Really?" I said, sugar dripping. "I think this family could use a little togetherness." She hesitated. I knew what she was thinking. After Thanksgiving's meltdown, why would I want to host? I almost wanted her to ask. But she didn't. She was too proud to show fear. "Well," she said stiffly, "if you insist." "Oh, I do." The next 2 weeks were quiet on the surface, but I was moving behind the scenes like a general preparing for siege. I opened new bank accounts in my name only, and began transferring my income little by little. I hired a private process server to stand by with divorce papers. I met with an appraiser to determine the true value of the house. $780,000. I gathered every receipt from the purchase. The $150,000 I put down from my inheritance. The monthly mortgage payments I alone had made for 9 months while Jonathan changed careers. Meanwhile, I played the perfect wife. I cooked, I smiled. I laughed politely when Linda called to check in. I even wore red for Sunday dinner, but every move was calculated. I reached out to Brooke, too, not as myself, from a burner number. Posed as Jonathan, told her I was busy until after the holidays. "No contact until January," she responded. "I miss you, but okay." Perfect. Keep her quiet. Keep her irrelevant. I wanted her completely unprepared for what was coming. The best revenge is patient. Aggression is only effective when it doesn't look like rage. It has to look like confidence. Like a woman walking into a room knowing every single person there underestimated her. On December 23rd, I texted Alicia. "Me, everything is set." "Alicia, good. Deliver the blow while they're drunk on sugar and family pride." "Me, I plan to." By the time Christmas Eve arrived, my house was sparkling. Lights in the windows, cinnamon on the stove. The dining table set for 16 with new plates I bought just for the occasion. I even placed Linda's favorite casserole dish at the center, baked potato au gratin with a rosemary crust. I wanted her comfortable. I wanted her to feel safe, because Christmas wasn't going to be a celebration. It was going to be an execution. Christmas came to Kentucky with a deceptive sweetness that year. Frosted window panes, twinkling lights, Corollars 2 streets over. The world smelled like cinnamon and nostalgia, but in my house, I was staging a reckoning. This year, there would be no cozy fireside moments, no holiday cheer. There would be exposure, and it would come gift-wrapped in humiliation and consequence. I spent exactly $7,120 preparing the stage. Not on presents or tinsel, but on props, a new mahogany dining table to replace the old scratched-up oak one Jonathan always refused to part with. Crystal wine glasses that glinted like daggers under chandelier light. A silver tray engraved with the words, "Truth is the sharpest gift," custom-made in New Orleans, overnighted with express delivery. But my favorite purchase? A large white canvas sign hanging above the mantel, in bold gold script. "What's done in the dark always comes to light." Subtle? Not remotely. Intentional. Every damn inch. The guest list was tight. Linda, of course, my ever-condescending mother-in-law with her frosted tips, stiff pearls, and voice like a rusty garden gate. Jonathan, naturally, who still didn't know I had every detail of his betrayal catalogued, color-coded, and legally certified. Ethan, his bumbling, red-nosed brother who talked too much when drunk. And Melissa, Jonathan's cousin, a woman sharp enough to cut Linda down to size, if only she had reason. Tonight, I'd give her one. Brooke wouldn't be attending. She had no idea I had texted her from Jonathan's burner phone 2 weeks earlier, posing as him. Christmas with family. Can't talk until January. Stay low. She replied with a red heart and a miss you. Disgusting. Perfect. At 5:43 p.m., the doorbell rang. Linda entered like she owned the ground, fur-lined coat, Chanel handbag. That familiar look of judgment already aimed at my Decker. Well, Catherine, she sniffed, glancing around, this is surprisingly tasteful. I expected more glitter. Or cheap bows. I thought you'd like it, I said, handing her a glass of Bordeaux without asking. Tonight's about family after all. Jonathan walked in shortly after. He kissed his mother on the cheek, barely nodded at me, and took a sip of the wine I handed him, one I had chosen intentionally, from a bottle Brooke had once raved about on Instagram. He wouldn't catch the reference, but I would. That was enough. Ethan arrived with a 6-pack of craft beer and a reindeer sweater. Melissa showed up last, in a crimson velvet dress and 6-inch heels, smirking like she'd been waiting for this party all month. Dinner was flawless. Honey roasted ham, garlic green beans, truffle mac and cheese. I carved the roast myself, the knife glinting in the light as Jonathan stared across the table like he didn't recognize the woman behind it. Maybe he didn't, because she was gone. I killed her the night I found the Warsaw Report. When everyone was fat and wine-drunk, I stood. I have a little gift for everyone, I said, voice sugar-sweet. I know it's early, but I couldn't wait. I reached behind the tree and pulled out 4 thick white folders, each spiral-bound, each with gold lettering across the front. What Jonathan Miller didn't want you to know. Linda's lips pursed. Jonathan's eyebrows drew together. Melissa blinked, intrigued. Ethan already looked nervous. I passed the folders around the table, watching their hands tremble as they opened them. Inside, Jonathan's fertility records from Warsaw, dated years before we ever met. Screenshots of his texts with Brooke, late-night sexts, hotel confirmations, baby emojis. Bank statements showing thousands transferred to BM Ventures, Brooke's initials, of course. A transcribed voice memo from his phone, one he didn't know he recorded, where he said, I'll convince Catherine to sell the house, transfer the equity, get her out with a signed NDA. She cry a few months. They always do. The silence around that table was delicious, heavy, violent, a symphony of shock. Linda gasped. She looked at her son like he'd just slapped her across the face. Ethan dropped his wine glass. Melissa let out a soft holy hell. Jonathan stood red-faced and shaking. You manipulative bitch. No, I snapped, slamming both hands on the table. Sit down, Jonathan. He froze. No one here wants to hear your excuses. You lied. You let me blame myself for years. You watched me inject hormones into my body, cry over failed cycles, suffer silently while your mother mocked me while you knew the whole time that it wasn't me. He opened his mouth, but I cut him off. And don't even try to talk your way out of this. I've already spoken to my attorney. You remember Alicia, don't you? The one who got her last client a house, 2 pensions, and the dog just out of spite? Jonathan looked like he was going to be sick. I filed for divorce. The prenup stands. You get nothing, not the house, not the bank accounts, not a single cent of the $780,000 it's now worth. I paid for 70% of it, and you're going to walk out with your suitcase and a restraining order if you don't play nice. I turned to Linda then. And you, I said, meeting her eyes. The next time you feel like calling a woman infertile, maybe check the facts first. I had my eggs tested in Cincinnati 2 months ago. I'm perfectly fertile. The only thing I've been carrying these last 5 years is your son's dead weight. Her face frozen, pale, cracked. like a porcelain doll falling from a shelf. I won't be your scapegoat anymore. I won't sit at your table to be insulted like I should be grateful for breadcrumbs. I don't need you. I never did. Jonathan finally sat, defeated. Ethan whispered, "Jesus, John." Melissa stared at me like I was a queen delivering a verdict in a red velvet court. And I wasn't finished yet. "I've arranged movers," I said calmly. "They'll be here in 3 days to collect your things. You're going to sign a separation agreement before New Year's, or I will file a motion to freeze your assets, including that fake business account you set up for Brooke." He blinked. "Oh yes," I added. "I found the transfer trail. And the photos. Hope she enjoys cheap motel lighting." The silence was perfect, cleansing. I sat down slowly, lifted my wine glass and took a long, satisfied sip. "This isn't revenge," I said at last. "It's liberation." For 5 years I played the quiet, polite, understanding wife, but the truth is, you never deserved her. As the fire crackled and my guests sat stunned, some guilty, some grateful, I felt something settle inside me. Not peace, no, something deeper, power. I had burned everything they thought they knew about me and risen from it in stilettos and strategy. This wasn't the end. It was just the reveal. The day the divorce was finalized, the air in Lexington felt sharper than usual. Not just cold, crisp, like the world was newly cut from glass. I walked out of the courthouse in a dark green wool coat and black boots, holding a manila folder with my decree of divorce, signed and sealed. Catherine Miller single, but make no mistake. I wasn't alone. I had no ring, no husband, no in-laws to tiptoe around. No fake brunches or frozen smiles for the sake of appearance. What I had instead was control. What I had was truth. The judge ruled in my favor on every count. The house, the accounts. The Porsche Jonathan tried to hide under his cousin's name in Asheville. Turns out BM Ventures wasn't a startup, it was Brooke's initials. She wasn't a partner. She was an escape hatch. She left him 2 weeks before the final hearing. Packed up, blocked his number, and moved back to some coastal yoga commune in California. I'd like to say I didn't enjoy watching her bail, but I'm not a liar. Jonathan moved back in with Linda. Apparently, she's had a change of heart. She even mailed me a $100 Starbucks card tucked in a pale pink apology note, written in that shaky cursive she reserves for condolence letters and thank you notes. I lit it on fire. Watched it burn in the new fireplace of my new house, surrounded by things I chose and paid for. I drank wine while it curled and cracked into ash. Apology not accepted. I took $140,000 from our savings and bought a 2-story brick townhouse in Louisville, not far from Alicia, my attorney-turned-friend-turned-partner-in schemes. She brought me a bottle of bourbon on move-in day and said, "This house already smells like revenge and expensive candles." I approve. I painted the walls myself, dove gray in the office, deep emerald in the bedroom. Everything bold, clean, purposeful. I ripped out the carpet and replaced it with black-stained hardwood. There's no room in my life now for beige. I hired Eliza Novak, a young Polish architect with sharp lines and sharper ideas. We gutted the kitchen and rebuilt it with matte black fixtures, concrete counters, and floor-to-ceiling steel shelves. She reminded me of who I used to be 10 years ago, hungry, underestimated, and unwilling to ask permission. "This doesn't feel like a house," she said when we finished. "No," I replied, "it's a headquarters." And I needed one. I founded Miller and Wakefield Strategy Group with Alicia as legal counsel and Nadia Yes, the same tech genius who cracked Jonathan's laptop, as our behind-the-scenes data investigator. We specialized in consulting for women in high-asset divorces. Not just legal protection, reputation management, forensic recovery, exit strategy. Our first client was a woman from Chicago, married to a pharmaceutical exec who'd funneled over $800,000 into an offshore account under a fake charity. She found me after reading an anonymous op-ed I published in The Atlantic titled,
How to Set Fire to a Marriage Without Getting Burned.
Within 3 months, we had 5 clients. 6 months in, we had 18 and a wait list. I paid off the townhouse in full, wired Eliza a surprise bonus of $12,000, and bought myself a new watch. A Rolex. black dial, stainless steel, no diamonds. No sparkle, just sharp, ticking time. A reminder of who controls it now. One afternoon, I saw Jonathan at Whole Foods. He looked bloated, worn out. He was arguing with Linda about almond milk. The man who once stood in front of a room with a microphone, charming execs into million-dollar deals, was now red-faced in the vegan dairy aisle. I didn't speak to him. I didn't need to. I walked past, picked up a bottle of Napa Valley Red, and smiled at the cashier like a woman who knows she's untouchable. Because I was. Because I am. Revenge doesn't always need fire. Sometimes it's the slow bleed of irrelevance. Nothing makes a narcissist suffer more than your indifference, but some wounds still needed closing. Brooke. She had no idea I kept her number, that I'd followed her social media under a fake name, Lena Hart, a name I made up one night when I couldn't sleep. She posted affirmations and smoothies and talked about clearing toxic energies like she hadn't slept with another woman's husband. I messaged her once, just one line, no threats, no insults. Just clarity. He told me you were infertile too. He has a pattern. She blocked me. 2 weeks later, she deleted her account entirely. I don't know what she did after that. And honestly, I don't care. Sometimes I wonder what Jonathan tells people now. Maybe that I was cold, controlling, career-obsessed. That I snapped one day and turned into a villain. That's how they cope, these fragile egos in tailored shirts. They rewrite their downfall to fit their comfort. Let him rewrite. I'll be the villain in his story if it means I stay the hero in mine. One night, I curled up on the couch with a glass of that same Napa Red and opened the journal I started the night after Thanksgiving. The cover was cracked now. Inside were pages of fury, plans, financial accounts, timelines, emotional confessions, and some ugly truths. But on the last page, I wrote something else. Not a threat. Not a list. Just this. You don't always get to choose the pain, but you always get to choose what you do with it. And I chose to survive like a storm loud, dangerous, unforgettable. Then I added one final line. My name is Catherine. I'm not someone's wife anymore. I am someone's warning. That warning now hangs in a black frame above my office door. Women read it when they walk in. Women who are tired of hiding, tired of shrinking, tired of carrying secrets that don't belong to them. They sit across from me with trembling hands and quiet anger, and by the time they leave, they're holding a folder and a plan. They don't need permission. They need strategy. They need what I never had until I made it for myself. And I give it to them like a weapon, not to hurt, but to escape. Jonathan called once, left a voicemail at 2:17 a.m. You win, he slurred. I hope you're happy. I didn't reply. Because I didn't just win, I rebuilt the battlefield. And now? Now I wait for the next woman who needs a war map. Because revenge wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning.
The end.